Greetings, folks. This is the first time I've done this. My name is Mark Hasera, former KC-135 pilot, retired Lieutenant Colonel in the United States Air Force. Had a very unusual career as an Air Force pilot. As you can see here behind me, I've got a lot of paraphernalia. But this is my very first live on YouTube. And this particular one, all I want to do is just tell you who I am and tell you how much I appreciate 220,000 subscribers and 170 million views in about 14 months. So thank you to all of you who have tuned into the Mark Hasera channel. I've always wanted to fly airplanes. Ever since I was a little kid, standing on the hood of Grandpa Andy's car at Los Angeles International Airport, I've wanted to fly airplanes. My Grandpa Andy lived about 2 miles from Los Angeles International Airport. And this is in the early 60s. So we had propeller-driven airplanes as well as the brand new jets coming in. My older sister, me, my younger brother would stand on Grandpa Andy's car when I was 5 years old, watching brand new 707s, DC-8s, Vickers Viscounts, Lockheed Constellations, Lockheed Electras coming into land at Los Angeles International Airport. And that's when I decided I want to fly airplanes. And I've always been in love with 707s. I've always loved watching that airplane fly. And for 24 years, I got to fly KC-135s, which is a 707 derivative. The big wall sticker you see above me here is 8874, which was my airplane, had my name on it when I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan. But folks, I've always wanted to fly airplanes. And fortunately for me, I got to live my childhood dream of flying all over the world in a 707, refueling a lot of different airplanes as a veteran of 4 wars: Desert Storm, Kosovo, Afghanistan, and Iraq. As soon as I fell in love with airplanes, standing at the end of the runway at LAX, my father introduced me to plastic model airplanes. That became my hobby, but also an obsession. An obsession from the standpoint that I knew I could learn a lot about airplanes by building plastic models. And fortunately for me, when we were living in Atlanta, Georgia, I had a very good friend of mine, Mike, who lived down the street from me, who was also a big model builder. And we just sit and we build model planes together. And they didn't look so good, but it was sure a lot of fun building them. My dad was really good at building model planes, but I did it so that I could learn about wings and engines and guns and cockpits, tails and stabilizers, the units, the combat histories, because I'd always wanted to be an Air Force pilot. I have a grandfather who flew, an uncle who flew in the Air Force like myself, and my father was in the aviation industry. So it's something I was surrounded by, literally. If they could have created a school as a pipeline for just pilots, I would have gone there in a heartbeat. I was what you would call pretty much a C student through my entire academic career. But I knew a lot about flying, a lot about airplanes, and a lot about the history of airplanes too. So went to college at Brigham Young University, got a political science degree, went through Air Force Reserve Officer Training Corps. That's how I got my commission. Had to wait a year to go to pilot training because it was the Reagan buildup and they couldn't train the pilots fast enough. So I ended up being working in a warehouse in the mornings and pumping gas at a gas station in the afternoon to pay the bills until I finally got to Enid, Oklahoma, Vance Air Force Base, where I flew T-37s, which was the primary jet trainer. We call it the 6,000-pound dog whistle. I've got a lot of time in T-37s. And then the absolutely wonderful, fabulous T-38 Talon, which is basically a fighter jet. The best part of pilot training, obviously, learning how to fly, met some great friends, had some terrific instructors, and T-38 formation is something that you'll never forget. Flying 3 feet away from another airplane, kind of like you see the Thunderbirds and the Blue Angels and all the other demo teams doing. Struggled through pilot training, finished at the bottom of the class, but I still finished and got my Air Force Silver Wings. Went to Pease Air Force Base as my first assignment, which is in Portsmouth, New Hampshire. Now, they told me on my dream sheet that I had to put an East Coast base, Strategic Air Command base, on my dream sheet. I went, yeah, okay, whatever. And I literally just went down the eastern seaboard all the way down to Florida to see if I could find a Strategic Air Command base somewhere near a beach, because I'd grown up on the beach. My mom was a surfer till she was 63. And sure enough, Pease Air Force Base in Portsmouth fit the bill, but I didn't think anything of it because I had Beale, March, Travis Air Force Base, we're all tanker bases along the West Coast, and where I grew up in California. Well, as luck would have it, I got Pease. And an instructor pilot in my T-38s who I wish I could find him to this day, one of the best people I've ever flown with, excuse me, came up to me and said, I would sell one of my kids to go to the base you're going at. And he'd flown B-52s. And I said, what are you talking about, Marcus? He goes, do you have any idea where you're going? I said, no. I put Pease down simply because it was on the East Coast near a beach. I'm a beach guy. And he goes, you're kidding me, right? I'm going, nope, that's all it was. And he goes, don't you ever tell anybody that story, because when you get to Castle Air Force Base to go through initial qual, there's going to be a lot of people come to you that are going to want your assignment to Pease Air Force Base. And I said, why? Why in the world would people be all over themselves about Pease Air Force Base? And he says, because it's near Boston. It's an FB-111 base, not a B-52 base. So it's got 2 FB-111 squadrons and a tanker squadron, and that's it. And yes, it is near the beach. Do you like lobster? Nope, don't like lobster. He goes, how in the world did you get this assignment? I said, they told me I had to put an East Coast base down. I put Portsmouth because it was near a beach. He wanted to slap me. Anyway, go through initial KC-135 training as a co-pilot at Castle Air Force Base, which was really great because my mom and dad were living in Monterey. So on the weekends, I could go over and see them. And then literally drove across the country in my Mazda RX-7 to Pease Air Force Base and showed up there in August of 1985 and began flying KC-135s at Pease. Strategic Air Command mission, obviously the nuclear single integrated operations plan, or SIOP. That's the nuclear war plan. But we had FB-111s. And so our mindset was a little bit different there because we're flying fighter bombers and refueling fighter bombers. Absolutely loved Pease. Absolutely loved it. It was a beautiful location. I was in the 509th Air Refueling Squadron, which is a great squadron. Matter of fact, I talked to one of my aircraft commanders just the other day. So it's like 40 years ago. And we just had a ball talking to each other. Got certified on the nuclear mission. And every third week, Wednesday at 8 o'clock, I'd show up at the alert facility and go to this underground concrete bunker and basically live for 7 days on Strategic Air Command alert, waiting for the message that says, "Okay, take off and go bomb Russia." Fortunately, that never came. We had a lot of other missions too, because again, we're air refueling airplanes. And the saying is, nobody kicks ass without tanker gas. Nobody. And it's true. So we had off-station trainers. We had missions where we would go and support exercises. It was a great place to learn how to fly tankers. But little did I realize I was going to end up at the place to really learn how the KC-135 was employed. Pease Air Force Base was one of the first bases on the BRAC, the Base Realignment Commission, and sure enough, it closed in 1990, August of 1990. I was one of the first crew members to leave, and we went to Okinawa, Japan, and Kadena Air Base. Oh my gosh. It was the best assignment of my career. I learned more about flying KC-135s. I learned more about myself and my abilities in the 5 years that I was stationed in Okinawa, Japan. But we got there on August 2nd, 1990, the day Saddam invaded Kuwait. So my wife was like, "You're not going to have to go to this, right?" I said, "Nope. Not going to have to go to this," until my wing commander asked, "Anybody been to Saudi Arabia in the last 2 years?" And I ended up going to Operation Desert Shield, Desert Storm. Again, a great learning experience. I flew the first night, Wave 1, refueling the first F-4G Wild Weasel package into Baghdad, refueling Coors 31, 32, 33, 34, and an EF-111 jamming airplane, call sign Drill 72. You never forget your first time when you see the elephant, as they say. A lot of emotions, obviously, a lot of really interesting radio calls. But Desert Storm was my first large air campaign flying KC-135s. I'd have more later. During the 5 years I was in Okinawa, Japan, I got to go on aircraft carriers. I'm a really unusual KC-135 guy with 10 catapult-assisted takeoffs and 10 arrested landings on 8 aircraft carriers over my career. I even got to drive the John F. Kennedy while it was underway replenishing and refueling. Had my camera with me everywhere I went. So I've got some great pictures, which are in my book, Tanker Pilot, Lessons from the Cockpit, which is also the name of my podcast, Lessons from the Cockpit. So please go to my YouTube channel and you can download episodes. And my book is found on Amazon, but I'm the only one that has the paperback copies with color pictures. Amazon's are black and white. I don't know why they did that. Got back to Okinawa, Japan. Again, stayed there for 5 years, worked in weapons and tactics, got to fly in the backseat of an F-15, got to fly in the COD on and off aircraft carriers, ran an exercise with a team that I built and with an F-15 guy, Boomer, that really helped me understand how does the 18th wing, the Shogun wing, operate. And I actually got an achievement medal for creating that particular exercise. We had down to airman scenarios. The USS Independence was our bad guy air. They were dropping live bombs. We were working with the AWACS, with the RC-135, with the ES-3 Viking. It was a fabulous week, tiring, but a great week. And being at Kadena really set me up for the rest of my career. Leaving Okinawa, Japan in 1995, I did my headquarters tour, which was at Scott Air Force Base. I spent 2 years on the floor of the Tanker Airlift Control Center, managing, planning, and executing airlift missions. Not a lot of tanker missions, mostly airlift. Got to understand how the C-141, C-5, even C-130s, how they all work at the strategic, operational, and tactical levels. And then I put in a package to become the Air Mobility Command tanker tactician, and was fortunate enough to get picked up to do that job. The very first package they put on my desk was to build the KC-135 Weapons School, which is now called the 509th Weapons School at Fairchild Air Force Base in Washington. That was by far the toughest assignment I had, trying to build basically a Top Gun school for the KC-135 community. Nobody wanted us. Everybody thought what we were trying to do was foolish. We got a lot of backlash, but we built the school. And our third class was going through on 9/11. Last year in June, we had our 25th anniversary with 243 graduates of a school that I helped create with some extremely talented officers and NCOs that created that school literally from the ground up. So on 9/11, I got a phone call, and 8 days later, I deployed to the Middle East when I was the chief of the air refueling control team, managing, basically planning and executing all air refueling missions in the Middle East. I'd go for 3 and 4 month stints doing this chief of the air refueling control team position. I was literally using every piece of learning and education that we taught at our weapons school, at the tactical and operational levels, even in the strategic, in some missions. That school prepared me to be an expert at air refueling planning. And there was only 2 lieutenant colonel graduates of the school, the guy running it, Bobby, and me. So I ended up going to the Middle East a lot, which is fine because that's what my job is to plan and execute at all aspects of air refueling operations, and we did. I was the chief during Operation Anaconda, which did not go well the first week. I was the chief of the air refueling control team during the run-up to the war. And then finally, the shock and awe campaign. I had 5 deployments in 2 years to the Middle East, running, flying, and planning air refueling operations. I left Spokane, Washington, and Fairchild Air Force Base for, believe it or not, Norfolk, Virginia, Navy town, teaching at the Joint Forces Staff College, now teaching our services and other services of our coalition partners and government agencies operational level planning and execution, which was a lot of fun. And it was a great job because I was home almost every night. Left there 3 years later to my last job in the Air Force as Operational Test and Evaluation Center, Kirtland Air Force Base, Albuquerque, New Mexico, as a test program manager, which was very interesting because I had all joint weapons. I told my boss, hang on, boss. I've never dropped a bomb, never shot a missile, never shot a gun, and you're giving me all joint weapons? He goes, but Sluggo, you've been through weapons school and you have more operational experience than anyone in this building. So you've got all joint weapons. I had JDAMs, I had AIM-9X, we had small diameter bomb, a lot of different things, and a lot of initiatives for being able to use satellite guided weapons on moving targets which was very fascinating. Got to fly a Super Hornet simulator for an hour and actually launch AIM-9X missiles at a couple targets. Just a really interesting job. But I'd been in the Air Force almost 25 years. It's time to leave. And I retired in 2007 and went to work the following month for what was then called Rockwell Collins, now called Collins Aviation. And that was also another very fascinating job because now I'm surrounded by engineers. I know how the airplane works and I know how all the systems work, but I don't know what's behind the piece of glass. And that's where I learned this is how you build a multifunction display. This is how you build a joint helmet mounted cueing system. This is how you build the F-35 Joint Strike Fighter helmet and a lot of other things. But after 7 years there, sequestration hit during the Obama administration. I got laid off. They laid me off, but in actuality, I got fired. I was a fish out of water, and we'd had a terrible, terrible family situation that didn't turn out well, and I just couldn't function. And so we moved to Utah, and that's when I wrote my book, Tanker Pilot, Lessons from the Cockpit, over 2 years. It took me about 3 months to actually write the book after I finally got everything together. And it was published in November 2017 by Simon & Schuster. I have the distinction of not having one rejection notice. Simon & Schuster loved my book, loved the manuscript, loved the pictures, because I had 4,000 color pictures when I left the Air Force. I took my camera with me everywhere, on the aircraft carrier, in the airplane, in any airplane I flew. So I have some really spectacular pictures. Started my podcast, Lessons from the Cockpit, going on about 3 years ago. I've had a couple of breaks in posting stuff. Taught myself how to draw airplanes in Adobe Acrobat, or excuse me, not Acrobat, Illustrator, and like you see above me. And that comes from 3 of us that illustrate airplanes for model airplane decals. But the difference is this is a big decal you peel off and stick to a wall. And also started doing professional speaking. And my theme is dare, dominate, and dream. Dare to grow, dominate with experience, dream with purpose is my most sought after keynote speech, which I'm going to give here in a couple weeks. But that's Mark Acera. Married for 37 years last month, 5 kids, 4 of them still alive. Unfortunately, we buried one of them in 2010, which was the period I was talking about where I was having a lot of trouble at work, couldn't concentrate. And right now, folks, I'm loving life. I am retired, but I got to do all these things, both in the Air Force and now out of the Air Force, like writing a book, like doing a podcast. And please go download some of the episodes of my podcast, because I've got some terrific interviews with some people that did amazing things in airplanes. And it's not just pilots, it's maintainers. It's one gentleman I interviewed flies Reaper drones, which is a fascinating look at a lot of things, intelligence. And I became interested in drones, obviously on the battlefield, but after I got out of the Air Force, reading some books. So I want to share with you my reading list. Number 1, obviously, my book, Tanker Pilot, Lessons from the Cockpit by Mark Acera. The foreword's done by Rush Limbaugh, who happened to be a very dear friend of mine. The book about flying drones is called Hunter Killer by Mark McCurley, MCCURL, MCCURELY, I think. But if you put in Hunter Killer, it'll come up. Not Dan Hampton's book about wild weasels. This is a different one. A truly fabulous book. Fighter Pilot by Robin Olds and written by his daughter, Christina, is another book everyone should read. There's two books that come out of the Vietnam War era, both written by the same author who was the vice commander at Tockley, and that is Thud Ridge and Going Downtown. Really, really excellent books on the air campaign over Vietnam. Sandy Woodward's book. Oh, what is it? Admiral Sandy Woodward was the task force commander that took the British down to Argentina to take back the Falklands. And he has written a book, which the name escapes me. I probably got to just turn around and take a look. But that is a really, really good book. Midway, The Battle That Doomed Japan by Mitsuo Fuchida is probably the best look at a battle by one of our adversaries ever written. And his lessons learned in his very last chapter should be memorized by every senior leader in the military. Absolutely great book. I interviewed, and it was a great interview, Al Mack, Chief Warrant Officer. His book is called Razor 03, A Night Stalker's Wars. Should be required reading by every military or aviation enthusiast. His story is he was flying the helicopter over Takragar Mountain when Neil Roberts fell out of the back when Razor 3 got hit by ground fire. And he talks about that and a lot of other missions in his book. Truly a fantastic book. So all of you just start there, all right? I wasn't going to go this long. I appreciate all of you that subscribe to my channel. We're going to do this a lot more, probably Tuesday and Thursday evenings. There's other lives that I attend on Friday. But I want this to be a place where we can gather together at like 5:30 dinner time, Mountain Standard Time, and just talk things aviation. And the chat will be open so that you can come by and ask me questions, make comments. If I can answer your questions, I will. I will tell you if I am can't because I don't know, or more than likely I can't answer because of the classification level. But I have kept my aviation enthusiasm going, and I've got a lot of friends that are still on active duty, doing things all over the world right now. But I want to create a community where we can just sit down and talk our stories of aviation flying. But more importantly, I want all of us to have a place that we can come to share lessons learned. Hey, Sluggo, I did something really stupid, but this is what I learned from it. And believe me, there is no pilot on the face of this planet that hasn't done something stupid, lived through it, and learned from it, and has passed that knowledge from the graybeards like me onto younger people that are now doing the task at hand all over the world, whether it be flying military airplanes, commercial airplanes, cargo, even general aviation. I want this to be a place where we can come learn from each other. and why I want to do this. So we have now gone 30 minutes. I appreciate all of you that will download and watch this and listen to it. I plan on doing this a lot more. Uh, Tuesdays and Thursday nights. We'll see how it goes. Again, this is the first time I've done this. I was struggling to just get my camera turned on here. Not the one on my laptop, but my really good one. And the background looks pretty good, actually. I'm pretty pleased with the way it all looks. Other than I could use a haircut. All the best to you folks out there. Thank you for subscribing to my YouTube channel. Please go see at Marcus Hara on YouTube, at Lieutenant Colonel Marcus Hara, LTCOLMARKHASARA on TikTok and on Instagram. I'm working on having a Snapchat channel. I'm also got a Discord channel up, but I haven't used it a lot lately. I'm still learning how. So I'm all over social media. But my YouTube channel has done extremely well. I've got over 220,000 subscribers and 170 million views in 14 months, which is why I express my gratitude to all of you who are subscribers to the Marcus Hara YouTube channel. Have a good night. Enjoy the week. And remember, nobody kicks ass without tanker gas. Nobody.